Okay, I'm just turning the camera on. There's no planning, there's no script. I just have to talk about this and talk from the heart. I'm talking about this massive problem that America has. You know, every single time I look at social media, turn on the TV or the news, I'm bombarded by this negative, chaotic view of America. You see riots on campus.
More than a dozen people were arrested at Ohio State University overnight.
You see homeless people, drug addicts. You see gun violence. You see urban decay. You see Disney villains prancing around as if they're attractive or something. You see, just in general, a country in decline. There's just one problem with this. And that problem is that I live in America. And I have lived here now for 5 years. And this stuff, although it exists, I just don't see it. If I walk outside now, if I go downtown now to go to a restaurant or something, I'm not going to see any of that stuff. And that's because that stuff is so amplified and so overblown, not only by people locally in America, but by adversarial powers abroad and just the international community as a whole. They will amplify every negative aspect of America to make it look as if this place is falling apart and on fire. So I wanted to talk about this because I'm not some sort of fresh off the boat tourist here. I've lived in America now for 5 years. I'm not an American fanboy either. I love America. I think it's a phenomenal country. I'll get into that in a little bit. But having lived here for 5 years, I've had to deal with all the pitfalls too. This absolutely insanely expensive medical system. I mean, my medical insurance costs me more than my rent and all of my monthly bills in China, for instance, just for my medical insurance. It's stupid. I have to deal with that. Of course, I've had to deal with the government a lot here in every aspect of getting driver's licenses and registering, my daughter being born and going through the medical system and social security numbers and everything you can think of course, paying tax and dealing with that, which is very overly complicated in America for some reason. But, I've had to deal with pretty much everything that's most people would complain about. And there are definitely some things to complain about in America. But before we even get into this nonsense, because I've figured it out. I understand why this phenomenon happens, and we'll get into that. I just wanted to get a quick word in from the sponsor. Everything is connected to the internet these days. We can't avoid it. Heck, even some toothbrushes are for some reason connected. Silly, but that's the way things go. One issue is that the more we are connected to the internet, the more vulnerable we are to nefarious cybercriminals, malware, and exploits. That's why I use Surfshark VPN. It is my first line of defense and stops cybercriminals from grabbing my IP address. But not only that, it helps you with things like discriminatory price gouging. If you set your server to a different country, you'll find out that you can actually get deals like flights and rent-a-cars cheaper than if you were to order them from your own country. It's weird that way. Surfshark VPN is awesome though. Check it out to get some peace of mind, give yourself that extra little bit of security, and take advantage of all the extra services like being able to watch videos that are blocked in your country online. Go to surfshark.deals/serpentsaday to get a huge discount off of a 2-year plan, plus 4 months extra. Hey babe, I just got us 4 months extra of Surfshark. That's surfshark.deals/serpentsaday and use the code serpentza. And now, back to the show. There's a reason I moved to America. Out of all the places in the world, there's a reason why I tried so hard and went through so much effort and time and all the loopholes I had to jump through. And that is because America is a phenomenal country. And I mean that. It's singular. It's unique. It's an outstanding country in many aspects. And a lot of people, especially people that were born in America, they take it for granted. Now, we're going to look at the negative things, and we're going to discuss them in a minute. But I just wanted to shock all of you. So I'm sure this will come as a shock to you. But America is the most functional country I've ever lived in. Now, hear me out. Because, of course, the bar is set pretty low for a person like me. I grew up in South Africa, and I spent a third of my life in China, of course. But I can go get an envelope. I can write an address on it, stick a little stamp, go out to my mailbox, and remember, I live in a fairly rural area these days. Stick it in my mailbox, put up that little red flag, and somebody picks it up. And believe it or not, it arrives at its destination. Mind blown. Seriously. You know, where I'm from in South Africa, it's like rolling the dice. I'd say 50% chance your letter will arrive at its destination. It's such a messed up, corrupt, useless postal service there. It's not even worth talking about. I'll just give you an example. My aunt, who lived in Cape Town, when I moved from Cape Town to Johannesburg, she would send me a birthday gift every year. And it was usually a T-shirt because she worked at a clothing company. So it'd be a T-shirt with a birthday card. I received it the first year and never again. She would send it every year. She'd send it in the post, but it would always get stolen. And it got to a point where it was just not worth trying to send anything through the post because it would always get stolen or just not arrive. So for me, the fact that the postal service works in America is amazing. I mean, never mind the basics like, you know, electricity, internet, water that I can drink out of the faucet, you know. That all works. I don't live in Flint, Michigan. Apparently you can't drink the water out of the faucet there. But, you know, people know about that, and that's an issue. The electricity staying on is huge if you've watched any of my videos about South Africa where the electricity goes off every day. But, of course, like I said, I'm setting the bar pretty low. But the basic things work very well. But then the facilities that you get living in America are incredible. You know, again, taxes are high. I get it. I hate it. It feels like you're being robbed every year when the taxman comes and deletes half of your savings account or whatever. And I've had to experience it for years now, and it's not pleasant, but at least you're getting something back. Hear me out. Libraries. I take my daughter to the public library all the time. Not only do you have access to all these books and programs, you know, they have like things they put on for children all the time where I can take my daughter and they have like someone bringing a pony or doing a dance or whatever. It's cool. They put on all this stuff for kids. And, you know, when you've got a young kid, this kind of stuff becomes very important to you, you know. They do that stuff, but of course, it's kind of like going to Blockbuster, dude. You know, back in the day when you went to go rent VHSs, well, the libraries here have got thousands of movies on DVDs and Blu-ray. You could just go for free, by the way, because your library card is free. You go in there and you can take like 5 movies home with you, and then you just have to return them within like a week or two, right? They've got 3D printers in there, so you can go and do your stuff. Computers, so you can access the internet if you don't have access to that. They've got so much at the public library. It kind of blows your mind away. They even have like PS4 and PS5 games you can rent. I mean, I would have loved growing up in America just because of the libraries and how cool they are. But then you've got the playgrounds. Again, I live in a fairly rural area, but even out here, the local playground is well maintained. The lawns are mowed. The public bathrooms there have toilet paper in them, and they're fairly clean. About as clean as you can expect a public toilet to be. And it's nice. I can take my kid there. It's safe. It's a fantastic thing. They've got jungle gyms and all that there. Not only out here in the rural areas, but remember, I used to live in California. And in the downtown sort of areas, you also have these fantastic playgrounds and parks and everything. It's really geared up. Like, when I say functional, I mean functional. They have farmers markets and fairs and all sorts of things for kids to do and families to do all the time. It's really, really a wonderful place to live, especially if you have a family. Of course, this is in complete contrast to this chaotic image that you see online of windows being smashed and things on fire and, you know, moral decay and all this other nonsense. And that, of course, is because that stuff is super amplified. Okay, and so let's just get to the meat and potatoes of this video here because I figured it out. It's pretty simple. It is a time-honored tradition in America to criticize the government. In fact, that's something that makes America great, and what it really is today is the fact that the people can criticize the government and take care of things they don't like. Quick example, my friend in Arizona, we were driving down the road, he pointed out, hey, you know, there used to be a speed camera here, but everybody got together and voted them out. And I looked it up, and apparently it was a situation where the speed cameras were, you know, people didn't like it, and through a democratic process, they actually, you know, approached the government and voted them out. And in 2017, they got rid of all the speed cameras in Arizona, or at least in Tucson, where my friend lives. So now he doesn't have a speed camera on his road anymore. I mean, that's kind of an example of how you can enact change. In China, if you try to complain about the speed camera on the road, the government would probably arrest you, tie you to a pole, make you hold a camera, and you would become a speed camera yourself. In all jokes aside, though, you wouldn't be able to get them to stop using speed cameras or facial recognition cameras or anything like that. If the government tells you got to eat dirt, you have to eat dirt. That's what it's like in an authoritarian sort of country. So, you've got this fantastic situation where people can get things changed and criticize their government. But there's this thing in human nature, right? Picture this. You have a beautiful garden, fruit trees, and I don't know, maybe you've got some bees making honey, and you've got a beautiful lawn. But there's this one brown patch on your lawn, right? It's ruining everything for you. Even though it's just a tiny brown patch, you're going to focus on it, right? You're going to look at that brown patch. This is terrible. This has to change. This is ruining my beautiful garden, this one brown patch. And that's human nature. You're going to focus on that problem. And that's what seems to happen here in America, is there are problems. Absolutely are problems. But they are these, in relation to everything else, fairly small problems. And people focus on them, hyper-focus on them, because it's ruining this utopia. And so people complain. And now with the age of the internet, it's the easiest way to complain. You can broadcast every little fault that you want. And because America is a free and open country, nobody's stopping people from broadcasting these faults out there. In a place like China, you film something bad, you get a knock on your door, the Chinese internet censorship kicks into high gear, they delete all your posts, all your videos, you get arrested, your entire family gets under observation by the Chinese police to make sure this news doesn't get out. It's how it works. That's why you turn on social media, and you know what you do see that's positive with regards to countries is you see, I don't know, like an American well-known personality walking in a real crappy-looking Russian supermarket saying that it's amazing, but it looks like absolute shit, and he's trying to eat some disgusting-looking bread saying that it's going to radicalize you against your leaders. Dude's probably never been to a supermarket in the USA where it is actually amazing. Even a freaking Walmart has got so much choice, and it's chock-a-block of everything you could ever want and so much diversity. You know, you see positive things as far as countries are concerned. When you look at countries like China and Russia, you see glistening skyscrapers and stuff in China saying, look how amazing it is, and EVs and technology and, all this beautiful... It's all fake, by the way, the majority of it. But you see all this beautiful stuff about China and Russia and authoritarian states. You know why? It's because they're not allowed to share any of their negative stuff. You try share anything negative in those countries and you'll be dealt with. However, it's encouraged, and it's such a tradition to complain and criticize about the problems in America that it's freely available to everyone. And so what's happened is you've got countries, especially adversarial countries around the world, who've kind of hijacked this movement. You see, American citizens complaining about a problem in their neighborhood is something they're very much entitled to do. China coming in, joining the crowd, and complaining about that same thing, they're not really supposed to be doing that. But guess what? Because the American citizens want that particular problem to be, amplified so something can be done about it, they don't mind that they've got these outsiders coming in and joining in the crowd, screaming and shouting and pointing fingers at the problem. Because you know what? They want this problem solved. And so these authoritarian governments have really realized that this is their easy way in to cause division and cause hate and to make their countries look bigger and better. And that is to join in on the American bashing party, join in on criticizing the American government party. Because no one's stopping them from doing it, right? So, one of my long-winded analogies, if I may. Think about this. You've got a school, and that school is incredibly well known for having a strong football team, very strong football team. All the rival schools hate that school because every time they go to play against them, they lose. And one day, the principal of that school decides, you know what? I kind of don't like sports that much. I would like us to become well known for having an amazing marching band. So he decides he's going to close down the football team and start band practice instead, have a very big band practice class. Now, of course, all the students in that school and all of the parents are like, no, absolutely not. We want to continue to do football because that's what we're well known for and all that. That's what we want. So they organize a PTA meeting to come in and convince the principal and convince the school staff that they must keep the football team open and forget about the whole marching band nonsense. But the local rival schools, they get wind of this meeting and they send in all of the students and all of the teachers from these rival schools. They go to this PTA meeting, and because there's so many of them and they're creating such a noise about it, they actually end up convincing the principal to shut down the football team. And then they all win. And that's what China and Russia and countries like that are doing with America, is they're coming in and hijacking all these little movements, and they are usually small, small little protesting movements, small little this and that, and they're joining in their ranks and they're funding them and they're doing all sorts of nonsense, and they're broadcasting them and amplifying them on Chinese and Russian state media and all over the world through various means, and making America look like an absolute shithole when it's not. You see what this is all about? America has these problems, but dude, here's the thing. You keep seeing all these drug addicts and stuff you see all the time. It's always Kensington Avenue. It's always one area. You see all these shoplifters smashing and grabbing things out of pharmacies and stuff. It's always in San Francisco, in one city. These problems, I'm glad they're getting a lot of attention because that's the proper way to set them right, and fix them. But it's not countrywide. You don't have the entire country running into pharmacies and stealing stuff off the shelves. You don't have the entire country looking like that one Philadelphia, Kensington Avenue, which is not actually as bad as it looks. It's pretty easy to make a situation look bad. Again, you can walk in a park and see a little pile of trash and focus on that, but not look at all the beautiful stuff around you. That's the kind of thing. It's very easy to cherry pick stuff. What I'm trying to say here is that this overblown negative view of America is bullshit. America is actually a fantastic, wonderful, phenomenal country. And there's a reason why tens of thousands of Chinese people are crossing jungles and going through this ridiculous trek to illegally come into America every other couple of months. Tens of thousands. There's a reason why illegally and legally so many people are trying to get into America, myself included. Yeah, and yes, I did it the legal way, and yes, it was very difficult, and yes, it remains to always be a challenge to be a legal immigrant. But, this is where I want to be. This is where I want my daughter to grow up. And this is where I want my family to be. And I will continue to stay here. That's just the way it's going to be, because I do firmly believe that America is the most phenomenal and amazing country I've ever lived in or visited in my entire life. And I'm no stranger to travel. And I've been to some incredible places during my life, and I've experienced really living in a lot of incredible places, not just visiting as a tourist. And by far, without a doubt, no competition, America's the best place I've ever lived in, ever. But, I was going to talk about the crime. I was going to address every single thing, but I don't think it's necessary. I think perhaps we can talk about those sort of topics in the future if you guys are interested. And please let me know if you're interested. And again, I don't want to downplay the problems that America faces. There are problems that need to be fixed. But I also think there's this kind of familiarity breeds contempt thing going on here. I mean, even the most spoiled child will complain about their fancy food and their expensive toys, right? Everybody's going to find a problem to complain about something. So I kind of feel like, and I'm not here to offend anyone, but I feel like a lot of the people in America who complain about issues are really like spoiled children, and they just haven't been experienced to the real hardships that life can really throw your way if you were to grow up and live in a developing country, for instance. And I think that in itself has bred this sort of victim mentality thing you see going on these days. But again, that's not what this video is about, and I am waffling now, so it's time for me to finish. I just wanted to say, thank you everybody for supporting me and what I do here. I wouldn't be in America if it wasn't for my audience helping me throughout the years on this crazy adventure that I've been on, which promises to continue, by the way. It's never over for me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to every one of you, and a massive thank you to my American audience and to all the everyday Americans that I interact with every day. Because America gets a bad rap, and it's completely unnecessary. I myself used to not think very highly of America, and it's probably because the kind of Americans you meet living in places like China are not the cream of the crop, if you know what I mean. So, you kind of get to meet the dregs, sorry to say. So I kind of had a bad impression of Americans until I met Sea Milk, of course, and until I moved here. And it flipped that whole narrative on its head. I've never met a more genuine, generous, welcoming, and friendly group of people in my entire life. So thank you. Heartfelt thanks to everyone out there. Anyway, like America, stay awesome. And what about the flag? What's that flag?
American flag.
Whose flag is that?
My flag.